In order to import to Kenya, there are required forms that need to be filled out. In 1993, import licensing controls were dismantled. Since then, the Kenyan government has instituted a pre-shipment inspection requirement for exports destined to Kenya. As of March 1st, 2009, exports to Kenya must also obtain an additional import standards mark, which must be affixated to a list of sensitive imported products sold in Kenya. All Kenyan products are required to have the following documentations: import declaration forms, a certificate of conformity from the pre-shipment verification agent for regulated products, an import standards mark when applicable, and a valid pro forma invoices from the exporting firm. New businesses should first appoint an agent or distributor and then enter and register as a U.S. company after sales have sufficiently grown. Kenya is one of the key logistical conduits into the East Africa community. Many foreign companies operating here do business under their own name to manage penetration into the larger regional market. Companies that create jobs and implement strong corporate responsibility, education, and training programs are greatly appreciated. Capacity building to create employment is needed to support Kenya's economic development goals and to reduce political instability. In a bid to attract both local and foreign investments by easing the cost of doing business, the government has embarked on a raft of reforms to ease the complexity surrounding the registration process. The government has embarked on a countrywide project to create one-stop investment centers. These investment centers facilitate investments by bringing together all of the relevant government agencies in one location. Through these investment centers, the government's goal is to reduce the time it takes to register a business to 1 day by enabling investors to more quickly and easily obtain all the necessary documents and statutory approvals that are needed to set up a business in Kenya. Navigating the regulatory environment in the country has at times proved challenging, and the assistance of professional service providers should come in handy. It is the responsibility of each entity to ensure that it complies with all regulatory requirements, including tax.
Kenya is the economic and transport hub of East Africa. The country has experienced a 5% growth in GDP over the last 7 years, largely in part to agriculture, which contributes approximately 25% of their overall GDP. About 80% of the population work in some aspect of the agricultural sector, at least part-time, and some of their key products include coffee, dairy products, corn, sugarcane, and wheat. Unfortunately, Kenya's unemployment rate is high at 40%, but reliable data is hard to come by, and this also has a correlation to the 43.4% estimation of the population that lives below the poverty line. Kenya's current exchange rate is 102 shillings per US dollars. As you can see, the inflation rate for Kenya has gradually been increasing since mid-2016, with the largest increase happening between May and June. This was largely caused by drought, which then caused higher food prices. Some of the problems Kenya is currently facing that is not allowing the country to improve their economic growth include an inadequate infrastructure, many terrorist attacks from a Somalia-based group, Al-Shabaab, a high unemployment rate, and weak government along with corruption. All of these have greatly impacted their tourism, which has a notable place in the economy. So what has Kenya done to make improvements? First, they've hosted a few incident-free, high-profile events such as President Barack Obama's visitation in 2015, which helped boost their tourism. International financial institutions and donors have helped them out a lot as well, but Kenya has raised capital in the global bond market as they issued their first sovereign bond in 2014. This is a great investment asset for them. The country is also in the process of building a new standard gauge railway to haul cargo and passengers between Mombasa, which is the largest port in East Africa, and Nairobi, their capital city. This will shorten travel time from a little over 10 hours to about 4, and it is expected to be completed at the end of this year. The building of the railway has created many new jobs for its citizens, which will also lower the unemployment rate.
On average, 38.5% of the Kenyan adult population is illiterate. Males had a higher literacy and numeracy rate of 64.2% and 67.9%, compared to 58.9% and 61.4% for females. In 2003, Kenyan government instituted a free primary education for all program and then did the same for secondary education in 2008. This resulted in nearly 3 million more students enrolled in primary schools in 2012 than in 2003. The number of schools has also grown by 7,000. More recently, the impact of the Education for All program has been seen at the university level, where enrollment numbers have skyrocketed. Nearly two-thirds of Kenya's $50 billion economy is controlled by a tiny group of super wealthy individuals. A small group of these Kenyans own roughly a fifth of the economy's gross domestic product, with each of them claiming about $93 million on average. The World Bank in October said Kenya's poverty levels are likely to stand at 30% of the population in 2030, citing historical growth of the gross national product per person. Over the years, Kenya has instituted measures hoping to bridge this gap.
Technology innovation has been a vital part of economic development in Kenya. Kenya is a country that has pioneered a mobile technology economy that points to future trends in today's world. The Kenyan technology service sector has grown from 11 million euros in 2002 to more than 300 million euros in 2013. With the help from the Indian government, Kenya has been able to establish an e-government services in the country. Kenya government can use information and communication technology known as internet to improve the activities of public sector organizations. There are different kinds of apps that in Kenya are being used today to help the economy. For instance, Usalama is an application that alerts law enforcement and nearby application users about dangerous situations with a few shakes of the phone. Edwin Inganaji is a computer scientist and a co-developer for Usalama. He was a victim of Kenya's very high crime rate. When an individual feels threatened, they can shake the phone 3 times to open the application and then press the emergency button or hold down the volume to dispatch police. Another application that's used often is M-Pesa, is a mobile payment system which allows people to handle cash during using their mobiles, from paying a taxi driver to your electricity bill. M-Pesa helps reduce the costs associated with handling cash and making lower interest rates possible. With this new technology, money transfer in Kenya is faster, safer, and easier than walking around with a bunch of money. Another app is iCow. iCow gives farmers valuable information as to breeding, animal nutrition, milk production. It also helps to increase milk and bring in more income to farmers. Kenya's dairy industry is huge, made up of a network of 1.6 million farmers. With that, a family must produce 15 liters per day to stay above poverty. Kenya's technology is becoming the key driver to economic development and the growth for investors. As you see in this slide, mobile cellular subscriptions has just skyrocketed. The percentage of mobile cellular subscriptions in Kenya from back in 1995 to 2015 has just shot up. Also, the percentage of internet users in Kenya has also gone up, but not as much as mobile subscription. In Eastern Africa, they're ranked fourth of 18 countries and worldwide ranked 152 for mobile cellular subscriptions. And for internet users in Kenya, the number of people per every 100 that have access to a worldwide network is 45.62. It's also ranked third of 18 countries in Africa and worldwide 112.
Legal. Mixed legal system. Kenya's legal system hosts a mixed system with English common law, Islamic law, and customary law. Kenya also accepts international criminal court jurisdiction in the country, which means that Kenya can prosecute individuals for the international crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. Kenya's government is made up of both legislative and judicial branch. The judicial branch consists of Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, High and Industrial Courts. And the legislative branch of Kenya consists of the National Assembly and the Senate. Laws of Kenya. Employment. The employment in Kenya is governed under general law of contract. Competitive regulations are in place in Kenya more for protection. The Competition Authority in Kenya was established by the Competition Act and protect and promote effective competition at the same time of preventing misleading market conduct. The health and safety responsibility in Kenya are given to the employers. It is the employer's job to ensure that their employees are safe, ensuring of good health and the welfare of their employees at work. Discrimination laws are set in Kenya, and the way people are looked at is that all people are created equal. There is a non-discrimination law that protects all people from being turned away due to race, sex, age, and others.
The ecological and environmental is an issue that continues to increase in Kenya. 8% of the land capable of being cultivated for crops. Also, 75% of Kenyan workforce engaged in agriculture. Here are a few issues that Kenyans face. Is deforestation, is which the destruction of vast areas of forest without planning new growth. Desertification is the spread of desert-like conditions in and due to overgrazing, lost agricultural productive soils, or climate change. Soil erosion is the removal of soil by the action of water or wind, compounded by poor agricultural practices, deforestation, overgrazing, and desertification. Water storage comes from global warming and waterborne disease, are which bacteria survive in and are transmitted through water. If not treated correctly, cause a serious threat to Kenyan water supply. Poaching is a major issue in Kenya. It's illegal killing animals, fish, and the biggest concern is endangered species. And also pollution, domestic and industrial, that contaminates the healthy environment by man-made waste. In response to the ecological and environmental issues Kenyans are facing, they are taking initiatives to evolve by educating farmers to coexist with the forest and offering lessons to local schools. Research and develop methods to rural communities to access clean water and manage waste disposal. Also, supporting the education of local farmers and the use of alternative agricultural methods to sustainable reap better crops. and my favorite, is to support an elephant sanctuary that generates revenues for contributing farmers, and it reduces human-elephant conflict and also protects plant species.